Michael Jordan doesn't do casual when it comes to appearances, not at his private golf club, and certainly not with athletes he doesn't respect. That's what makes Caitlin Clark's presence alongside him at Grove 22 so powerful. This wasn't orchestrated for press or headlines. It was Clark, at the height of her rising influence, being brought into a personal space Jordan has used to meet with icons and business partners.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
And in that quiet setting, far from cameras and corporate agendas, a message was sent. Clark is in a different category now. One where respect is earned, not given. One where influence isn't measured in likes, but in legacy. What unfolded between Clark and Jordan goes deeper than golf. It's about symbolism, timing, and power. Jordan's interest is never random. It's strategic. His decision to meet with Clark privately may suggest potential collaboration, mentorship, or business opportunities that could redefine her trajectory. More importantly, it positions her as a central figure in reshaping the public perception of women's basketball. This kind of recognition, from someone who built an empire on competitive excellence and cultural savvy, is more than validation. It's a signal that Clark is expected to change the game, not just play in it. So, this is how you know things just hit another level. Caitlin Clark, WNBA rookie, NCAA record breaker, and national sports fixation, was spotted playing golf with none other than Michael Jordan at Grove 22. Yes, that Grove 22, Jordan's ultra-exclusive, invite-only golf sanctuary that doesn't even have a public address. And no, this wasn't a brand event or charity tournament. This was a private, intentional meeting on MJ's turf. That's not a coincidence. That's a statement. Jordan does not hand out tee times like flyers. Grove 22 is sacred ground for Jordan and his inner circle. It's not where rookies show up for casual hangs. It's where the legends go to talk, strategize, and if you're lucky, get brought into the fold. So when Clark shows up in that setting, it means one thing. She's being seen as more than just a rising star. She's being viewed as a cultural force with real staying power. This wasn't just about golf. It never is with Jordan. Every move he makes is calculated. Every relationship, every meeting, especially one that happens at his private sanctuary, is deliberate. He's notoriously selective about who he allows into his orbit. So for him to invite Clark, that's not just a nod of respect. That's a high-level recognition that she's arrived at a place where the greats are no longer watching from a distance. They're engaging directly. It also speaks volumes about the direction Clark's career is taking. From record-breaking college performances to dominating headlines in the WNBA, her ascent hasn't just been about basketball. It's been about presence, influence. Jordan inviting her into that space signals that she's transcending the game. She's not just part of the league. She's becoming part of its future. And let's be real, Jordan's track record when it comes to recognizing greatness is unmatched. When he sees an athlete who mirrors that rare combination of talent, confidence, and cultural momentum, he doesn't sit on the sidelines. He moves. And that's exactly what this looks like. This is the kind of quiet moment that doesn't just stay on a golf course. It shapes narratives. It shifts power. It becomes the thing people look back on as the turning point, the moment where someone officially stepped into the upper echelon of the sports world. Not just as an athlete, but as a brand. As a movement. Clark's journey hasn't been easy. The hype, the expectations, the pressure, it's all been there from day one. She's dealt with intense media coverage, nonstop comparisons, and the kind of scrutiny that could buckle a lot of players. But she hasn't just survived it. She's owned it. And now, she's reaping the rewards. Jordan's interest isn't about hype. It's about trajectory. It's about seeing someone who, like him, didn't just play the game, they redefined it. That's what makes this moment so massive. Clark isn't just being celebrated for what she's done. She's being recognized for what she's about to do. And make no mistake, there are real strategic implications here. Jordan isn't just a basketball legend. He's a business empire. He created a brand that became bigger than the sport itself. So when someone like Caitlin Clark ends up on his radar, you have to wonder, what's next? mentorship, business deals, a future collaboration, a signature line, all very real possibilities. And all made even more likely by the fact that this meeting happened on Jordan's terms, in his space, away from cameras and corporate agendas. That kind of privacy means something. It adds weight. It shows that this wasn't performative. It was genuine. And that authenticity? That's what makes this such a powerful moment for women's basketball. Because for years, the WNBA has been pushing for greater legitimacy in the mainstream. The talent has always been there. The competition, the passion, it's all real. But what's often missing is that big cultural validation. That public acknowledgement from the old guard that the league is not just worthy of respect, but deserving of investment. Well, this was it. Jordan giving Clark his time, his space, and potentially his backing sends a message louder than any corporate campaign. It says, this is real. This is big. This is the future. Clark's presence at Grove 22 puts her in rare air, and the symbolism behind it can't be ignored. It's the clearest sign yet that women's basketball has officially entered the next chapter, where legends of the game don't just support from afar, but participate in building what's next. And for the league, this opens doors. Major ones. Because Jordan's interest isn't just a compliment, it's an endorsement. The kind that makes sponsors pay attention. The kind that brings in new fans. The kind that shifts perception and positions the WNBA not as a side note, but as a serious player in the global sports industry. The ripple effects of this are real. From more investment in the league, to more media coverage, to more opportunities for players who are still on their way up. Clark's presence on that course didn't just elevate her brand. It lifted the entire conversation around women's sports. It also showed us something else. She's ready. There's a maturity, a calmness, a confidence to how Clark moves that makes it clear she's not just prepared for these moments. She's built for them. She didn't look out of place next to Jordan. She looked like she belonged. And that kind of energy, that's what sets a legacy in motion. But this also sets expectations. Because now that she's operating at this level, the spotlight's only going to get hotter. The pressure's only going to intensify. And the expectations? Through the roof. But based on everything we've seen so far, Clark's more than capable of carrying that weight. If anything, she thrives under it. So what happens now? That's the big question. Because this wasn't just a headline. This was a pivot. And if history tells us anything, it's that when Jordan taps someone, things happen. Clark could be headed for the kind of crossover success that turns athletes into icons. Her face on billboards. Her name attached to causes. Her brand branching out far beyond the court. And it all started with a quiet, private game of golf in Florida. That's the power of moments like these. They don't scream, they resonate. They linger. And they mark the shift between where someone was and where they're going. Clark's going somewhere big. That much is clear. So if you've been following her journey, this is the chapter you don't want to skip. If you've been rooting for the WNBA to get the recognition it deserves, this is the moment you've been waiting for. And if you're just now tuning in, it's not too late, but the bar just got raised. Let us know your thoughts. Does this meeting with Jordan mark the start of a bigger shift in sports culture? Could Clark be the next major brand force in the league? How do you think this impacts the WNBA's future? Drop it in the comments. Hit like if this moment blew your mind too. Share this with your sports crew. And make sure you're subscribed. Because if this is where Clark's story is going, you won't want to miss a single step. Let's just sit with the magnitude of this for a minute. Caitlin Clark, still fresh in her WNBA journey, gets the private nod from Michael Jordan. Not in a press conference, not in a corporate boardroom, but on his turf in his sanctuary. Grove 22, a place built by and for him, where only the most elite, most respected, most vetted individuals ever step foot. This isn't just another celebrity crossover. It's a cultural checkpoint, one that says Caitlin Clark has officially entered the big leagues, all of them. And while this moment was undeniably personal, the shockwaves are public. Because Jordan isn't just basketball's most recognizable name. He's a global symbol of dominance, brand genius, and generational impact. The man didn't just redefine how basketball is played. He changed how athletes exist, how they're marketed, how they move. He's the template, the prototype. When he turns his attention towards someone, especially in such a private, intentional way, it tells the world, pay attention. So why Caitlin? Why now? Because her rise hasn't just been impressive, it's been historic. Clark's record-shattering college run didn't just put her on the map, it cracked the GPS. She became appointment viewing. Her games pulled numbers. Her jersey flew off shelves. And the conversation around her wasn't just about points per game, it was about impact. By the time she entered the WNBA, she wasn't just another top pick. She was a media storm, a business opportunity, a cultural moment. But here's the key, she's delivered. In the face of pressure, criticism, and expectation, she's shown up with poise and performance. She's not just a headline, she's headline-proof. And that is what Jordan respects. That's what got her the invitation to Grove 22. Because Jordan knows the cost of carrying a brand, of being bigger than the game, of walking into every room as the face of a league. He lived that, and now he sees Clark living a version of it, under even more intense social media scrutiny and public visibility than he faced during his peak. That's why this moment is so heavy. It's not just a casual hangout. It's a quiet coronation. One icon subtly signaling to another, I see you, and I know what you're dealing with. And for Clark, that validation doesn't come with confetti. It comes with possibility. Because this kind of attention from Jordan has layers. It's not just about personal respect. It opens doors. Business doors. Strategic doors. Legacy-building doors. Jordan isn't just a basketball figure. He's a mogul. And aligning with him, even loosely, sends a message to every brand in the world. This is someone you need to pay attention to. It puts Clark in a different category. One where deals aren't just about endorsements. They're about ownership, about equity, about building something lasting. That potential? It's massive. She could become the face of the next evolution of the Jordan brand. The first major women's figure to be developed, marketed, and elevated under that umbrella. A signature shoe, campaigns, collaborations. Clark's not just marketable, she's culturally relevant. That's gold in this era. And let's not forget what this means for the WNBA as a whole. Because every time a player breaks through to the mainstream, it lifts the entire league. Clark being seen at that level brings more cameras, more dollars, more respect. That one golf outing could trigger a chain reaction that boosts investment in women's sports across the board. This is how movements start, not always with a press release, but with moments like these. And what's especially powerful here is how organic it was. There was no media push, no publicist leaking tidbits to get headlines. This wasn't about driving engagement. It was about connection, a real one that happened away from fans, away from social media, away from noise. And that makes it louder than any commercial ever could. It tells us this isn't performative. It's real, and it adds a layer of authenticity that can't be bought. Because Caitlin Clark didn't chase this moment. It came to her. Because of who she is, what she's done, and where she's headed. She didn't just show up and shine. She stayed consistent. She's proving that she can carry the weight of this attention without losing her edge. And that makes her not just a great player, but a rare one. The kind you build a future around. Jordan sees that, and he's not the type to offer a nod unless he truly believes in it. That's why Grove 22 matters. Because for him, it's not just a golf course, it's a filter, a gate, and Clark passed through it. This isn't about idolizing her. It's about recognizing the moment, because the world is watching. Fans, brands, media, other players, and what they're seeing is a shift, a change in tone, a new level of seriousness being applied to women's sports. And it's happening because of moments like this. And Clark's role in that, massive. She's not just doing this for herself. She's showing every young athlete that the rules have changed, that excellence will be noticed, that greatness doesn't have to wait decades for recognition. And that's how legacies are made. But this is just the beginning. The golf outing was a spark. What comes next is the fire. Because now the expectations are even higher. The scrutiny will double. The spotlight won't dim. But if we've learned anything from watching Caitlin Clark, it's this. She thrives in that light. She doesn't shrink. She steps up. And with Jordan's quiet support, her next steps could be game-changing. Not just for her, but for the WNBA, for women's basketball, for sports culture. Because when one player gets through the gate, others start to follow. And the league starts to look different. More visible, more viable, more powerful. That's what this moment represents. So if you're still wondering why people can't stop talking about a golf game, there's your answer. It wasn't about the game. It was about the game behind the game. And in that arena, Caitlin Clark just won big. All right, let's go even deeper, because this moment, it's not just a headline. It's a defining pivot in a relationship between cultural power, sports legitimacy, and the evolving narrative around women in elite athletic spaces. Caitlin Clark golfing with Michael Jordan at Grove 22 isn't just a wow moment. It's a tectonic shift. One of those subtle but seismic points in time where a legacy starts to look different. Not just hers, but the broader one being built around women's basketball as a whole. Think about what Grove 22 actually represents. It's not a place you stumble into. This is Jordan's private sanctuary, meticulously designed to keep distractions out and preserve the integrity of who's allowed in. It's where strategy is discussed, relationships are cemented, and most importantly, where Michael Jordan shows you that you're not just talented. You're worth his time. And that's the thing about MJ. He's not just a generational athlete. He's a gatekeeper of sports culture. He's built a legacy of exclusivity, of intentionality. His brand thrives not because of saturation, but because of selectiveness. So when someone lands inside that circle, especially a young woman in the first year of her pro career, it means something very specific. She has it. Not hype, not potential, but that quality, the ability to rise beyond performance and become part of the conversation that shapes sport, not just plays within it. And the layers here are undeniable. Jordan isn't just any icon. He's the icon. The player who made basketball global. The business mind who made athlete branding an art form. The cultural figure who transcended sports and rewrote how athletes could live, earn, and influence. So when he shows interest in Caitlin Clark, it's not for clout. It's for continuity. He sees a through line, something in her journey that feels familiar. Because Clark has already hit that unique space in the culture where it's not just about basketball anymore. She's no longer only an athlete. She's a figure, a brand, a symbol. People who've never watched a single WNBA game know who she is. Not because of marketing spend or slick promotions, but because her performance demanded attention. And that's something Jordan understands better than anyone. But this isn't just about generational greatness recognizing greatness. There's something bigger at play. When you zoom out, you realize what this interaction actually does. It pushes the line forward. For decades, women's sports have operated within narrow boundaries. Less visibility, less investment, and a constant need to prove their worth. And yet, here we are. One of the most dominant figures in basketball history, just shared space. Private, intimate, intentional space with a WNBA rookie. That's not just symbolic. That's a crack in the glass ceiling. That's an icon saying, this league deserves more than just support. It deserves investment. And don't underestimate how powerful that kind of signal is. Because let's be real, visibility shifts when power acknowledges it. When cultural heavyweights start showing up, really showing up, people follow. Brands follow. Media follows. Fans follow. And the league? It levels up. LPGA Golf. Clark's presence at Grove 22 isn't just her win. It's a win for every player who came before her, fighting for half the attention, a fraction of the budget, and barely a piece of the recognition. It's the payoff of decades of excellence being undervalued. This moment? It's back pay, interest included, but it's also a challenge. Because with that recognition comes a new level of responsibility. Clark isn't just navigating the pressure of being a star rookie in the WNBA. She's navigating a path that could reshape how female athletes are viewed commercially and culturally. She's suddenly a bridge between the old world of limited exposure and the new world of unlimited potential. And this bridge, it's going to get heavy because the expectations are real. People now expect more than points. They want presence. Leadership, business savvy, a voice that speaks for the league, for the sport, for the movement. And while Clark's already shown remarkable maturity and control, the load is only going to increase. But here's the thing. You can already tell she's ready for it. That's part of why this moment with Jordan feels so right. Because she didn't look like someone who lucked into the moment. She looked like someone who belonged, who had earned her way into that space by grinding, delivering, and doing all with a calm edge that says, I've got this. And Jordan? He doesn't just hand out nods. He's not known for performative gestures. His respect is hard-won, which is why this whole interaction carries weight. It means there's alignment, philosophical alignment, cultural alignment, and maybe soon, business alignment. Let's not pretend the branding potential isn't massive. Clark aligning with Jordan Brand? That's a huge conversation. Not just for her, not just for sneakers, but for the narrative of what the Jordan Empire means in a new era. Because the brand doesn't just need athletes. It needs icons, people who can speak to new generations. And Clark, she's that. A signature shoe isn't just possible, it's probable. Campaigns, global tours, lifestyle drops, all built around her energy, her story, and her cross-generational appeal. That kind of collaboration wouldn't just sell, it would shift perceptions. It would show that women athletes are not niche. They are mainstream powerhouses. And that perception shift? It's exactly what the WNBA needs. Because yes, the league is growing. Yes, the talent is incredible. But still fights for headlines. Still battles for coverage. Still gets boxed out of major cultural spaces. Until now, Clark at Grove 22 is a flag in the ground. A moment that says the doors are opening. And not just for her, but for everyone who comes next. It's the beginning of a new era. One where WNBA players aren't just seen as great female athletes, but as great athletes, period. Marketable, influential, culture-shaping. And that's not an accident. It's not PR. It's the result of consistent excellence forcing the issue. Clark didn't ask for this attention. She earned it. And Jordan responded in kind. So now the question becomes, what's next? Because there's no way this is a one-off. This is the kind of connection that evolves, that grows. Mentorship, strategy, possibly a deeper alliance. And you better believe the sports and media worlds are watching closely. Because when two forces like this collide, they don't just create moments. They create movements. And Caitlin Clark? She's just getting started. If her story so far has been about proving she belongs, this next chapter is about defining the future. On the court, off the court, in boardrooms, on billboards, in global markets. Legacy-level stuff. So whether you followed every step of her journey or you're just now catching on, one thing's for sure. This isn't hype. This is history. Let us know how you're feeling about this crossover moment. Is this the start of something bigger between Clark and Jordan? What kind of impact could this have on the future of the WNBA and women's sports as a whole? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this if you're here for this era-defining moment. Share it with someone who's been riding for the league since day one. And hit that subscribe button. We'll be right here as the next chapters unfold. Because if this is how Caitlin Clark's professional journey begins, just imagine where it's going.